Profe, hace mucho frío hoy, ¿no?
Yes, there is. It's only this morning. Tomorrow it will be pretty much back to normal, but the afternoon will be
Es muy rico, ya que está traje chaparra.
or different degrees. Yes. Always make sure to check that before you leave the house. But anyway, the weather may actually be a part of what we are discussing today. Okay, can we get rid of our screens, please? As you are taking your notes in them, in which case I will ask you to show them to me at the end of the class. Okay? So, last class, I asked you to make, yes, kind of the diagnosis of what were these different parts of the soul, yes, at least according to Plato's three-part type theory of the soul, yes, in which it was divided into these three different possibilities, yes? And you make pretty interesting comments on the part of making a balance. And the idea of having you do it in teams and not everybody, I didn't ask everybody just to do it on themselves, yes, is because the idea of having your classmates around would in the end give a different opinion on the presence of these different three elements. As you were discussing, well, how far should I draw the line, yes, that I am putting? Now, some of you took it as a percentage, most of you took it as having different, yes, quantity of it. For example, it is possible that, yes, each of these is 100%, yes, and it is a part on what they make, on how much rational we can be, on how much spiritual we can be, on how much appetitive we can be. Yes, so it was interesting that you were discussing that part in order to try to determine it. But most interesting now, how just a question. Actually, the Mexican society balance, yes, was very similar. Yes, very similar. This one was the largest, yes, in most of your drawing, followed by this one, and very little of this one. Yes. So it's interesting. We follow the same impression on the idea that different cultures are different on this balance. Okay. Again, we are using one theory, yes, to interpret reality. Yes, based on what Plato arrived to through his discussion, through his logic interpretation of reality. Okay? But most interesting was your answer to this. How would you achieve equilibrium between these three parts of the soul? This idea of reaching equilibrium, most of you dealt with it like all of these three must be, or equilibrium depends on these three being equal. Yes? Being equal. That we are as rational as we are desirous, as we are willing. Yes? So that would be interpreted as this equilibrium. And this was put into the question in order to guide you in that direction. Yes? However, yes, and this idea of the perfect soul, in the end, most of you took the idea of, well, it would be an equilibrated soul. Okay? However, for Plato, equilibrating this soul, equilibrating this psyche, meant actually that one should dominate over the others. Yes? So in a way, it's not like a balance in which you have three different places and they all need to weigh the same, but rather, for Plato, they actually should be dominated, which is an idea. We'll see how he got to that idea. Yes, why did he conclude something like that? That one part should dominate the other. So there should be harmony. Yes, if the soul is in harmony, if your psyche is in harmony, all parts are working together. Yes, but there has to be somebody in command. Why? For the good of the whole. And if you arrive to that, then you are able to be philosophical, because you are able to think about things, to be critical. It's very similar to this idea that Socrates would say about knowing oneself. Yes, know thyself. Yes, know thyself. When you drew it and you put in that small bar how much you consider of yourself to be, and you discuss it with your classmates, that was the exercise you were doing. You were asking if you were creative, yes, or if you had discipline, or if you had, yes, this different. Practically nobody put them all in the same level. There was always one that was dominating the others. Yes? One that was dominating the other. The highest form of goodness can be achieved if there is harmony. But for Plato, harmony is not achieved in all of them being equal, in all three parts being equal, but rather, as I mentioned, by one part dominating the others. For Plato, it looks pretty much like if there's a ship, there must always be a captain. If everybody were the captain, what would happen to that ship? It would most likely sink. It would most likely sink. Yes, if everybody had a say. Yes. So for him, it pretty much looks like that. Yes, there must be, in order for there to be harmony, in order for there to be equilibrium, there must be one of these parts that dominates the other. And that is how they will find equilibrium. It's very different from an idea we would have today in a democracy, right? So the one he proposes goes like this. What do you think he proposes in order to achieve this harmony? Which part should dominate the others, according to Plato? What do you think he would propose?
Logisticon.
The logisticon would dominate the others. Why would you say that? Why do you think he said that? Why shouldn't it be the other way around? That courage dominates logisticon and desires, for example.
No sé, porque siento que como Sócrates, como o sea, aprendió de Sócrates.
Yes?
Sócrates también era súper como logístico, ¿no? O sea, no
Yeah.
era como, no metían tanto el espíritu, o sea, el espíritu one y el otro.
Yes, the spiritual one is kind of wild on one way, yeah. While the other kind of gives an idea of civilization, perhaps. Okay. He actually is very much influenced to this, not by Socrates himself, but because of what happened to Socrates. Do you remember how did Socrates die?
Yes.
So he does basically say this idea, yes? So there is the spirit and the serious, they are on one side, there is creativity, passion, and will, but there should be a lot of control, discipline, and reason, balancing one another, so it should be double in order so that the rational mind controls the other two. How did Socrates die?
Lo mataron.
Because he was accused.
He was condemned to death, right? He was accused of
Not believing in the God.
No,
not believing in God, but also corrupting you by not believing in God.
How can we, abusing of the moral of the young people also.
Exactly, corrupting the morals of young people. Yes, so doubting the morals of society, therefore corrupting young people. Yes, so he was accused of that, and he was, remember, sent to a trial in which he will be sent to death by 400 jurors who will decide that. So, what Plato comes to a conclusion after this is that democracy for the majorities is a mess, which is something that is a little bit hard to come with, yes, or to abide by. Why? Because it is democracy that killed his teacher. Yes? He says, no, there should be this captain, yes, that guides the things and allows, yes, the mind to think correctly. If we allow, for example, the other parts, if we allow our passions to guide us, what would be a conclusion of that? What would be an effect of that? If we only allow our passions to be the ones that guide us. How can it end in disaster? Can you give an example, for instance? If you only allow your passions to guide you. And by passion, he meant what we feel, what we push, just that emotion.
No.
Yes?
We don't.
It may clash with others, right? Very often. It may clash with others. Yes?
Maybe we won't like do the things just for not reasoning and we'll have some troubles.
Exactly. So if there is no reasoning, no weighting of that part, we may get into troubles, yes, because that will get into other people's head. If there is only this will, or there is only this courage, yes, if you are only courageous but not intelligent, what may be the problem with that? You can have the same similar problem, yes? So at least according to Plato's thought, this is the way that the mind should work. Of course, we could criticize it. We could say, well, but that is not exactly the way you will get the best results, yes, in a person, or the way every person is, or the way every person could be. But for him, from his personal experience, that is the way it should be. It ought to be, because the other experience may lead to disaster. Now, he talks therefore about what would be the ideal man. Now, talking about ideals, this is a big and important part regarding the theory of the forms, yes, that comes together with this. What is the importance or the relevance or the theory of the forms? It's not just to explain the origin of things. Its meaning is not abstract. But what does it explain? The importance of having ideal state of things. Yes? Did anybody get to see the material I sent you? It's for Friday, but if anybody got to see it, yes. So, what does that material discuss? On the relevance of the theory of the forms.
The theory of the forms that Plato said. That we should always imagine our forms,
Yes.
to guide us from them, like to use them for blueprints
Yes?
to create our life in order to achieve the best thing we can.
Yes, indeed. So basically, it talks about how useful can the theory of the forms be. Remember, we have our imperfect circles, yes, in our material world, in this world. And there is indeed, yes, again, not perfect, we're in this world, a perfect circle in this part. How could we ever strive for this perfect circle if this perfect circle indeed does not exist? So the idea that this perfect circle exists make us strive for that ideal. The same happens with, for example, loyalty, with honor, with with respect, with any set of values, yes, that we would think about or that we can think about. All of them could be envisioned by the existence of that form. Therefore, the existence of something ideal makes us work towards that. If that ideal thing did not exist, there would be no guidance. There would be no way to really try to make things better. For example, how could we consider that we are having a bad government or a bad society if we don't have the capacity to think of an ideal one? Yes? This is the kind of question that is being put forward. So the theory of the forms is useful and is very practical in that sense on explaining why we should have these ideals. Yes? So it is not just something abstract that is there, yes, and it should have been forgotten because it cannot be proven, but rather it puts into an interesting perspective, into a very useful perspective, these ideals. Okay? So Plato talks about the ideal man. What should be the ideal man? And in an ideal man, reason should be the one that guides. Reason should be the one that directs his options, that directs his thinking. Remember, we are not in a very intellectual point in history at the time. Yes, most societies, most empires, yes, are deciding things through war. They are deciding things through violence. Yes, sadly that hasn't gone, but it is much less common, yes, than it was at the time.
Professor, this is the ideal man according to Plato?
To Plato, to Plato, yes, so far. So this is the last idea we're looking at from Plato at the moment, yes? Then we will jump into Aristotle. Second, there should be courage. Yes, courage should be the second most important one, which is which part? Of the mind, the psyche? It's the spirited part, and finally we have the appetitive part. Yes? So, Why the appetitive part in bottom? Because it's like this savage part, this part in which, yes, we act pretty much like every other animal. So the part that makes us the most humans should be at the top, yes, and that is why it also should be at the top. So that is for him the form, yes, of man, the ideal man, yes, according to this.
Teacher,
Yes.
the reason is the one from the soul, the courage is the one from the spirit, and the other one is from the body? Or?
No, all of three are from the soul. All of three are the three parts of the soul. Yes.
Okay.
All three make up part of the soul. Yes.
Okay.
Later theories will identify them with different things, but in here we have one same idea of the soul, and the soul is the intelligence, the drive, the everything. Everything is contained in the soul. The soul is the thing that makes human different from every other species. Yes, it goes all together. So, he will make another proposal. So if this is the ideal man, if this is true for the man, this shall also be true for society. If this is true for one man, or for the man, this should also be true for society. Why? Because society is made up of men, therefore what is true for men should be true for society. And he thinks of the ideal state, or what should be the ideal conformation of society and of government. So, at the top, there should be a king, which is the most common form of government at that. Remember, he distrusts Athenian democracy because of what happened. So for him, democracy can make wrong decisions. And funny enough, if I were giving this class 10 years ago, I wouldn't have many examples of that. But now we have a number of them. Trump, Brexit. Yes, we have a number of funny decisions over there with our party. Yes, but not only that, the kings should be philosophers. The kings should be those that have achieved this state of reason. Yes, which is not very democratical. Yes, as a thought. Yes, it is really not democratical, but it is the way that he sees it. That is the only way that the state can make the best decisions. Then we should have the soldiers that give up the strength to the state, and eventually this appetitive part is made up by the working force, the workers. Again, Plato's ideas are not very coherent with modern democracies. Yes, they are not very coherent with modern democracies. He's mentioning a lot of this out of spite, yes, and vengeance for what happened, yes, of the mistakes that Athenian democracy could be making. Again, he says, or he pushes forward the idea that there should be a philosopher king. Those that guide society should be these enlightened individuals, yes, that would know out of reason, yes, out of questioning, out of this work, yes, how to guide the society just as there should be in this ideal man. Okay? That is what he will be proposing. And he will put his ideas to the test. Eventually, his most important or relevant disciple will be Aristotle, and Aristotle will be actually a tutor to Alexander the Great. Yes? On this chain, yes, of relevant tutors and students. Okay? So we will now jump to Aristotle. We will be coming back to some other ideas of Plato as we compare further philosophers and as we look at some ideas from Aristotle. But there is a very important difference we will mark between Aristotle and Plato. What's the question there?
¿Cuál era la última?
Workers. Workers. Okay. Aristotle has kind of a fundamental disagreement with Plato. So, just to have this clear, yes, this is a chain of very relevant figures, yes, being teacher to one another. So, Socrates will be a teacher to Plato, yes. Plato will be a teacher to Aristotle, yes, and Aristotle will be a teacher, a tutor, yes, to Alexander the Great, which will form, yes, in a small number of years, a very large empire in the Middle East. So some things about Aristotle, as I mentioned, he was a student of Plato. He was in Plato's academia. The academia was a school founded by Plato in Athens. It has that name because of a Athenian hero, Academo. Yes, so he will create this school. Yes, in this institution, in which he will call academia. As you can imagine, the name will stay. Yes, in order to refer to everything that has to do with this study of reason. Yes, with anything that has to do with education institutions in the modern world. So it will stay with that. Yes, or it refers to that. Yes.
We're in the place where the Plato's Academia is still active as a school or something like that?
No, not really. No, as many of these cities will be later abandoned as such, yes, it will not. But the concept itself will survive. So here we have, again, bless you, we have the same point on the world's idea. So the concept of academia survives, whereas the particular academia, Plato's academia, does not exist anymore. Yes? So the concept lives on. Yes, it's an example of this permanence of this essence. And he will be tutor of Alexander the Great. Why? Because his father was a physician to the father of Alexander the Great. Eventually, when Aristotle comes back from Athens after being there for nearly half of his life, he will be named the tutor of Alexander the Great. Yes?
It says 27 or
37. 37, yes. From age 18 to 37. Remember, this was not the time of formal schooling. What you would have is a place to discuss these ideas, to build new ideas. Yes, so that is why he stood there for so long and at such an adult age. What we would consider today like not an age for going to school was at the time, yes, pretty normal, as it was not instituted that you would have a place to go where to get educated. So at the age of 40, he goes back to Stagera and he will become his tutor. Many of his ideas will survive because of the extent to which Alexander the Great will take. Let me show you a painting from many centuries later. Yes. This painting, which is in the Vatican, yes, it is in a room in which they have a number of paintings depicting a number of important human feats, yes, such as the arts, yes, such as the sciences. This one is dedicated to philosophy itself, yes. This one is dedicated to philosophy, and it's called the School of Athens. It was done by Raphael, yes, 18 centuries after, yes, the time when Plato, Aristotle, Socrates lived, yes? And it kind of brings together a number of these figures, yes? So, in there, we didn't have like many images of many of these philosophers, but out of studying and out of looking at what influences, what ideas may Raphael have had, what influence may the Pope have had in painting, a number of suggestions have been made or who could be the different philosophers present in this painting. First of all, these plays they are in, yes, is not Greek, it's actually Roman, yes, because the Greeks never had the arch, they never used the arch, yes, they had different architecture, and that, but this is how they see them, 18 centuries later, yes, 18 centuries later. And the main figures in this painting, yes, the ones in the center, who would you say they could be?
The one on the floor?
So, which is the central figure? Is it one central figure or two central figures? There are two central figures, yes?
Yeah.
So, who may they be?
The one from the red.
So we have one vote for Socrates. So yes, they are the central, and indeed they are, in the perspective, yes, central part. Yes, everything in the painting actually guides, yes, this guides, everything, every single thing. I'm sure you have studied this in art, yes, but we're going to see at some other elements from it, yes, and how everything in the end distributes from it, but in the end, everyone's attention and the different perspective guides to these two features, okay? So there are a number of figures that we may be familiar with, yes, that we could look at. For instance, here you may see Anaximander, you may see Pythagoras, yes, writing his theorems, yes, that you know by heart today. Again, the theorems survive, and his particular works are apart from them. Heraclitus, wandering on change. Diogenes, which we mentioned it when you asked about cynicism. Yes, Diogenes, we went through it. There's a team also in this group that decided, the only team that decided to call themselves after a woman philosopher, which is Hypatia. Yes? Hypatia was one philosopher who was discovered until much later, because most of her works were kind of anonymous until they decided to study them, and eventually they came to the conclusion that they had been written by Hypatia. We have Parmenid, and we have, look at this, Socrates is to the side. Why is Socrates to the side on this painting? Because, again, because of how difficult it was to separate Plato's ideas from Socrates, he's put not as a very relevant figure in this painting. So, the main two relevant figures in this painting, yes, are indeed these two in the center. Yes. One very old figure, yes, which would be whom? Plato. And to his side we have Aristotle. Yes. And what is it that they are doing? What is it that they're doing? So they are having a kind of a dialogue. They are speaking. Do you think
Maybe he's writing.
they are
Notes.
writing notes?
In the book. Maybe
Well, in the
later,
books.
Later.
They have some of their most important books with them, yes. Timeo and Ethics, yes, the Ethica, Nicomachean Ethics, yes. This is the book that he is holding. And yes, that allows us to recognize that they are indeed Plato and Aristotle. What do you think they could be talking about?
And so,
Okay.
teacher?
Can I have two volunteers here? Well, I will choose you, please. Can you adopt Plato's posture, please? And can you please adopt Aristotle's posture? Yes, look at the different details. Okay, yeah? Yeah, very good. And can you please take Aristotle? Aristotle, the one in blue. And change from side so that everybody can see. Okay. Now you can, yeah, very good. Now you can see them face to face. Yes, or in real. Okay. Now look at each other. Yeah. What do you think they are talking about? What could they be talking about? What could they be discussing?
I think they will be talking about ideas.
Well, Aristotle will most likely try to describe he's more intelligent, right? They're having this discussion. It's a kind of a debate, trying to see who's more intelligent. Emmanuel?
I would say they are trying to talk about ideal, I don't know if it's called the ideal state.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how much they will, well, if you realize that Plato considered there was a common world,
Uh-huh.
I think he will try to refer to that world
Uh-huh.
and how they could apply those things or those ideal states to this material world.
Okay, can we quickly adopt the pose again? Yes? Okay, so,
One
go
is
Emmanuel
to
again.
sky to something bigger than him,
Yes?
something above him, and
Yes.
the other one is pointing to the material world, to the physical world, to the people.
Okay, who is going on this same idea? Yes? Everybody heard what Emmanuel said?
Yeah.
So he's talking, or it is very likely that Plato is talking about
Something bigger.
something larger. Yes, such as, you mentioned the actual word, ideals. Yes? Why he is saying about
The remaining things, the material,
the material things, the things that are, so to speak, on this world.
Yes.
Yes? So pretty much, thank you guys. Thank you. Okay. So, you actually bring it forward because it is much clearer. Yes, perhaps in painting, there are a number of details we missed. Indeed, it has been speculated for a long time. We don't have Rafael Sancho telling us this. We don't have somebody actually establishing, the Pope told Rafael Sancho to put them in that attitude. But there is a lot of speculation on, or is popular culture, that what they are actually discussing is their metaphysics. What is the metaphysics of Plato? There is this perfect ideal world of forms from which the essence of things comes, and that our intelligible thinking of them allows us to reach that perfection. through this soul. But Aristotle does not agree. He says, or he could be saying, what is it that you are smoking? Yes? Reality is not there. Reality is here. Everything that is real is here. So Aristotle does not necessarily agree with his teacher. He does not think that reality is somewhere else, that the truth is somewhere else. He will suggest throughout his works that actually reality is right here. Aristotle will be famous for a number of works he will do. He will work in many different areas, yes? And he will separate all of this knowledge. For instance, where have you heard about Aristotle before philosophy class?
Biology.
In biology, yes. What does Aristotle have to do with biology? He will make what? What will be the thing he will give to biology?
The cell? No.
No. Can anybody mention a different name for a cat or a dog? What are there? Yes? Felinas? Yes?
Taxonomía.
Exactly, the taxonomy. He will be very much interested into categorizing knowledge, every single thing in its box altogether. He will do the same with philosophy. He will separate the study of philosophy into different branches. That is where we begin to see the separation of philosophy into branches. Therefore, he will be much interested into putting reality into these separate categories of being, these separate categories of things and how they are and where they come from, and ordering every single part of these knowledge. That is why he says, well, why go so far, whereas the truth is right here. Yes, everything you can know about the world is not somewhere else, it is right here. Concepts do not exist independently from the mind, but they actually are something that human beings can understand, but it is there because we see it, because we understand it, yes? So this is a fundamental difference between these two. Their metaphysics, their way to understand reality is very different. Again, for Plato, reality and the truth are beyond us in a separate world, whereas for Aristotle, it is right there, but it needs to be scrutinized. It needs to be categorized. It needs to be separated. Okay? So we are going to look at how he proposes that happens through a number of things. For Aristotle, yes, there are two different ways for existence, for being, for reality. Yes? On the one side, there is the substance, which is something that other philosophers have been discussing. What is the essence of things? Yes? A substance is a primary mode of being. So, for Plato, the essence is here, and the rest is here. For Aristotle, there is not that division, but this exists as a substance, as the essence of things, and these are just different ways of seeing. Okay? So the substance is a primary mode of being. Aristotle says that reality is, for example, not only atoms or particles. It is not a mathematical number. Remember that Plato was influenced by Pythagoras by saying, well, these numbers, yes, in the end exist in this separate world. He said, no, they are not that. Yes, reality is not these kind of things. And also, it is not a mirrored image of a world of forms. It is not the real world. It's not a copy of a separate world.
They're the same.
Rather, they are the same. Exactly. So he does not go to say that they do not exist, that forms do not exist. He does not say that. He says they are right here. Yes? They are not part of a separate world. This world is not a copy. This world is the real world, and forms are also here. Okay? So, he is not saying that atoms and particles do not exist. They are real, but they are only parts of things. What is really important is the whole. What is everything made of? In the same idea, numbers and mathematical notions are in the end based in reality. They are based on what we can interpret from this world, not something that we take from a different world and that they can exist without us. Math cannot exist without, for instance, human beings in this idea. They are interpretations of what we see in reality. There would be no numbers if there weren't things to be counted. For instance, yes, this is his position. For Plato, numbers would exist, yes, as a separate thing, and they exist, yes. For Aristotle, numbers cannot exist, mathematical notions cannot exist without somebody seeing them in the material world. Yes, they cannot exist otherwise. Yes? They depend on the material world to exist. Yes? There is no idea of a perfect chair floating in the universe. No. There is a number of chairs from which we can understand and make up and build our own concept of chair. Okay? And forms and essences are real, but as Julia suggested, they are not divorced from this reality. They are part of this reality. As a result of this, atoms and particles exist, but which is the most important thing? The whole. So what is important is not the matter that makes this chair, but the fact that they are put together in a way that this chair exists. So that is the whole. Numbers exist in the intellect. They are an abstraction. They are something we understand from the real world. Not something that is inspired to us from a separate world. And finally, forms are not separate from the sensible world. They are, again, right here. Okay. Just to give you a clear idea of how Plato and Aristotle are different, because they will think of many of the same questions. So what is the last question we saw from Plato? What is the last contribution we saw from Plato? He's thinking of an ideal society, right? An ideal state. So for Plato, getting to an ideal society, what would we have to do to achieve that? Thinking about an ideal society and trying to think of it logically.
Having more reasoning.
Having, yes, depending only on reasoning to reach, yes, to that perfect society that exists, yes, in this world of forms, and trying to work towards that. Yes, that will be for Plato. For Aristotle, what he would do is, okay, let me visit 50 different societies to see how they are, and from there I can get you conclusions on which is the best combination of them. Yes? He says there is no reality beyond that. The best society is separate into all of these. We have examples, we can find it, we can compare it. Yes, he's very much into the importance of the natural world. Our senses are not deceiving us. Our senses are giving us valuable information from which we can understand reality. Yes. So these would be these two different methods. We're going to talk later about this idea of the, or this part of the ideal society, but these would be two different roads. So they are not divorced of the idea of what is reality. There is just a division on where reality can be found. Yes? If it exists apart from all of these material world, or if it is in this material world and we can understand it. Yes? In both cases, what is the tool that allows us to understand it? It is the thing that allows us to understand reality is our rationality. Yes? It is our rationality. Okay? So there is the substance of things. There is the thing that makes things what they are. And then there are a number of accidents. Accidents are secondary modes of being. The things that allow for change to happen. On the second day of class, we kind of mentioned, well, no, the first day of class, we kind of mentioned this theory of the accidents and the essence, yes, and substance, yes. So, for Aristotle's metaphysical theory, yes, for the origin of things and for the being of things, there are two different kinds of things. There is substance, which will be the essence, and there are the accidents. Does anybody remember what we mentioned were the accidents? Things? The accidents are things that will happen on the substance, but will not, in the end, modify it. The substance stays the same. The essence is the same. So, to put it in some way, Plato said that the essence is here, somewhere separate, yes, and the rest are copies. For Aristotle, there is something that doesn't change, and at the same time, things that change around it, they are called accidents. Okay? They are called accidents. I will put this into an example, okay? Let me put it into this. From these he derives a theory that is the 10 categories of being. Aristotle likes to categorize things, yes, a lot, yes? So he will come up with 10 different categories of being, which are the substance, the quantity, the quality, the relation. If you don't want to write them right now, we will go with each of them and with an example, okay? So, it doesn't matter if you don't put them together right now. The action, the passion, the place, the posture, the time, and finally, the state. These are the 10 categories of being. When we look at a being, we have these different 10 categories to describe it. Now, only this one is the substance, this is the essence, and the other 9 are accidents. Things that can happen to that substance, but do not change it, but also these accidents cannot exist without the substance. Let me give you an example. Each one of you has changed, yes, has suffered the number of accidents as you grow old. So time is an accident as such. But can, for example, age, what age are you?
19.
You are all the way from 17, 18 to 19. You are those different ages. Can that age exist separate from you?
No.
No. So only if you are here, if you exist, that age is possible. Yes? If you did not exist, that age would not be possible. So, the substance is the center. Yes? And the accidents depend on the substance to exist. Yes? That is the thing that he is establishing, that Aristotle is establishing. All of these other things are accidental. That is, they are things that add to the substance, but in the end, they could not exist without it. And what is that essence? The very essential thing, the very thing that will remain unchanged. Yes? For example, the fact that you are you. Yes? You are you with all of the accidents, but if we try to separate the accidents from you, they would not be able to exist as such. Okay? So, to put it into other words, accidents exist on a substance. They inhere in a substance. What is the substance? Or what could we analyze into these? Any single object. Yes? This red chair, yes, the 5th red chair from this particular classroom, yes? We could analyze a person by their name, we could analyze a specific animal, and in all those cases, accidents exist on this substance. Accidents will affect the substance in what Aristotle called an accidental way. That is, they will change it, but they will not alter its essence. So, in that same way, you have changed since you were younger, since you were babies, right? But, nevertheless, you are you. Yes, nevertheless, you are you. And finally, the substance remains the same through accidental changes. The substance is subject to these changes.
So until where do we know that something is an accident?
That something is an accident? Well, for starters, we have this guide by Aristotle that it could be these 9 different things. It comprises things that happen to us, but also things that we may be doing, but just temporarily. Yes? So we'll follow an example, then we will take our example here, and then we will make for an example, okay? To have it like clear, or which are the accidents and which would be the essence.
When, so I think you already said it, but
Go.
These accidents made for the substance at the end. What
Okay.
of them?
We could say that in the end, the accidents make up the substance. But again, that would be illogical when we consider that without the substance, accidents could not exist. Yes? Here's the idea. The substance exists before the accidents. Yes? It is primary to them. It is a primary mode of existence. Yes? The accidents could add to it or simply not be there, and the essence would still exist. Yes? So, apparently, yes, they add to this essence, yes, but they do not transform it fundamentally. That is, no matter what amount of things you do, you will not stop being a human being as such, right? So all these accidents, yes, just only sum to it. The very fundamental thing. So we can, for example, if something changes the essence, if something changes the substance, then that thing that which we consider the substance was not the substance. Yes? So in this case, that's why I went with the example of a human being. Because it is the most essential thing, yes, that we can cut from. Yes? The rest could be accidents, yes, or would be accidents. Okay, let's have an example. Let's see all of these in action. Yes? May I introduce to you our friend Sammy? Yes? So, Sammy. No, Sammy. Yeah. Lower. Not Sam, but Sammy. It's a large snake, but it's Sammy. Okay? Yes? Everybody familiar to Sammy? So it's going to be Sammy the snake, and we're going to apply the 10 categories of the being of Aristotle on Sammy the snake. Okay? So, take a look at Sammy the snake. Yes. You can look at Sammy the snake. Yes. Very long. Yes. What species would you say Sammy is?
Boa.
Boa. Yes. So it's a very long snake. Okay. There you go. Yeah, but it's not as old. It's not as large. Yes. It's just on the prime of its life. So let's take a look at Sammy here. Okay. So first we have the substance. Yes. Number one, the substance. What is the substance? Sammy the snake. It is that snake in particular. It's Sammy the snake. Okay. That is its essence. It's no other snake, it's Sammy the snake. Just as you may have Tommy the cat, just as you may have Firulais the dog, just as you may have whatever, it is that. That is the essence of it. Yes, that is the essence of it. Let's now go with the accidents. Remember, all other 9 categories are accidents. Yes, are things that add to it. So, let's look at the quantity. What is the quantity? Anything that can be measured about Sammy. Yes? So what is one thing we can measure about Sammy? The length. So let's say Sammy is 8 feet long. Yes, Sammy is 8 feet long. Yes? There's a lot of Sammy. Yes? It's a large thing. Yes? However, I'm not saying it with regarding to its quality, but rather things that I can measure about Sammy. That is going to be the quantity. Yeah? That is going to be the quantity. Now, Aristotle writes a whole book about this, and he measures all the ways that things can be measured, and he makes all of these analyses and things, which he can be keeping its info, okay? Anything that can be measured about Sammy goes to the quantity, okay? Then let's go with the quality. Quality would be the way we can qualify, yes, Sammy. And for that we have adjectives. What are some adjectives with which you can describe Sammy?
Long.
Sammy is long. Sammy is big, brown. Sammy is big,
Scary.
yes. Sammy is scary. So that could enter into another category, but we could say, yes, as such as an adjective, it could be that. Okay? So, let's describe Sammy on its quality. He has tough skin, yes. He can wrap himself around my neck and strangle me, yes. So he can do a number of things, yes, that will also be part of his quality. As mentioned, he's long in shape, he is graceful. He has gold skin with dark brown spots. Perhaps the image here does not make justice to Sammy himself. If you approach him quickly, Sammy is disposed, yes, to agitation, yes. He can see up close if it is too bright outside, yes, just like every other thing, and he can't move quickly because he's a very large snake. Okay? So that goes to his quality. We are describing, yes, a number of things. We cannot exactly like measure, yes, how slow he is, yes, how graceful it is, yes, but we have all these different ideas. Then, the next category of being is relative or relation. How we can place it or compare it with something else. Yes? How does it stand when we compare it with something else? In this case, Sammy is very similar to his brother's name. Yes? I don't know how he is called, but he's very similar to it. Okay? Think of the accidents as those things that make something unique. Yes? Sammy is unique in a way because he has a brother that is just the same length to it. One additional thing that is not you that makes you you is, for example, your family, your friends, etc., etc., etc. One thing, for example, okay, let's parallel to talking about Sammy, let's talk about another thing. Let's talk about this classroom. Okay? Let's talk about room 512. Okay? So, room 512, quantity. What quantifiable qualities can we establish from this room 512? It has 20?
Students?
21 or something.
21 or something students. Yes? Right now. Yes? It has. It has, I don't know, 4 meters wide. Yes, 2.5 meters. Yes, to this depth. It is 2.3 meters high. Yes, we could be telling about that quantity. What about the quality?
Or great.
Huh? But from the room itself. Yes, the room itself. Well, we could be talking about the group number 2, right? Well, it's actually a mixed group, right? But I mean, for philosophy class, it's group philosophy 2. Yes, we could take into account that. Yes, for example, yes, we could take into account. If we were to talk about the relation of the classroom, well, it is a classroom that sits between room 511 and room 513. Yes, for instance, it is in the prepa. Yes, that's where you will find it. That would be the relation. Yes. For example, the group philosophy 2, yes, is older than group 2 from 4th semester. Yes, from 4th semester. Yes. So it has this kind of relation. Then the action. What is the substance doing? In the case of Sammy, he is chasing a cat. Yes, he's chasing a cat. That is what he's doing. What happens with an object? For example, the classroom, this classroom, 512, it is simply standing there. It has no action in itself, but it is there. It exists. Yes, so that is its action. Yes, it is its action. Okay. In the case of the group, they are taking philosophy class. Some of them are checking their phone, thinking that the teacher does not see them. Yes? But it is very obvious. Yes? Gentlemen, nobody looks down and smiles. Yeah? So you're checking your phones. Then, we have passion. Do you remember passive voice in English?
Yes.
From your English class? Okay, what is passive voice? When something undergoes the action by somebody else. Yes, that would be the passive voice. So, what is happening to that? Not from what they are doing, but from what others are exercising on that object or thing. That would be the passion for this way to describe it. Yes? In this area. Different from the, because we just saw that same word, but with different meaning, yes? This is the one word with two different meanings, yes? When we were talking about the secret. In here, in the categories of the being passion, is what it is undergoing. For example, Sammy is being observed by the cat. What is the action? Sammy is going after the cat, is chasing the cat. As a passion, as what it is suffering and what it is receiving, it is being looked at by the cat. For example, getting to the example of the classroom. The action of the classroom is none because it cannot act. But it is being used by the students. Yes? In the action, group philosophy number 2 is taking a class, is studying philosophy. In the passion, they are being taught by the teacher, or they are being yelled at by the teacher. Yes? This is going to be the difference that is said between action and passion. Action is the one our subject is doing. Passion is the thing that it is receiving or undergoing. Yes? Then, the place. Where is it? Yes? Where is it? For instance, yes? Where is this particular classroom? Well, it is in Aulas 4. It is in Aulas 5. It is, yes, in the first floor. It has those specific accidents that make this classroom unique. Yes, that make this classroom unique. So it has all of this, yes, possibilities on where. Yes, where in particular. In Irapuato again, in Guanajuato, in Mexico, in planet Earth, wherever you want to put it. Yes. Then we have the posture. Yes, the posture. In many things, the posture will be similar to the action because what we are doing has to do with that. For example, your action, you are studying, but in your posture, you are sitting. Some of you are sleeping from your chairs. Yes. In the end, that would be this posture. Okay, that would be this posture. The time, yes, when we have a specific way to describe that part, and throughout the time, that accident changes. Yes. Right now, for example, most of you are covered, yes, whereas later in the afternoon, yes, you will be having no problem with the what? Yes.
Teacher,
Yes.
but time cannot also be measured
Time cannot also be measured.
and enter in the quantity section.
Yes, but the problem is, remember, time is a different dimension.
Okay.
Whereas the other keeps permanent for a certain, yes, for a certain amount of time. The other one, yes, changes every moment that happens. Yes, it's a separate dimension from the physical dimensions of things. Yes? Remember, we call it this other dimension. And finally, the state. Yes, the things or the rest of the things that make it very much particular but are not part of it. For example, your state would be the things you are wearing today. We haven't described them so far. We could know your height, the color of your eyes, and the different things, what is it that you are doing, what is your posture, all of that. But there are also things apart from that you are having on you right now that make you who you are today. And they are accidents. Yes? For example, your hair color would be a part of your quality. But the shoes you are wearing, the socks you have put on, your glasses, everything else that is not part of you would be on this state of things. For instance, we couldn't say a person is gray or is blue or is orange. We couldn't say that. We could be talking about their different quality characteristics on themselves. State has to do with what additional things make that element yours.
A tattoo will be part of a state or a quality?
Interesting. So a tattoo, different from clothing, different from other elements, yes, stays with you for a longer amount of time.
Yeah. But it's still been an accessory.
It still is accessory. Why? Because you
Decided to.
do not, yes, it doesn't make you you in itself.
You didn't born with it.
Exactly. Even though you will live with it, perhaps most of your life, yes, it was asked as the thing that in the end is adequate. It is an accident as such. Yes, it is an accident. Yes. That is, if we remove the tattoo, would you still be Emmanuel?
Yes.
Yes, you would still be. Therefore, if you can remove it, that is still you, then it is an accident.
And it will be an accident of state or it will always
It would be in this case. So you could debate and justify. Yes. So here's one thing. I'm going to ask you to do this exercise on putting these categories. Whenever you have the question on whether to put it here or there, justify why it should be here. It is as simple as that. Why? Because Aristotle talked about these, yes, 23 centuries ago. Yes, 23 centuries ago. He wasn't thinking of many of the things we may be familiar with today, right? For instance, such as dogs wearing Christmas things, right? So this kind of thing. Okay? So it goes to this. So these are the 10 categories of being according to Aristotle. Okay? So what I will ask you to do, yes, as of this moment, and that will be your ticket of exit from this class, is you will get together. Again, you decide if you work individually or if you work in couples or if you work in a trio, whichever is easier for you. And what you will do is you will choose something, whichever you want. I recommend mostly a living being. It is going to be easier. You cannot take my examples, that is nor this class, nor the classroom, nor Sammy the snake. Yes? You can pick your pet if you wish. You can pick somebody if you wish from your team. Yes, do not get to criticize somebody else, you know, or somebody famous, somebody that we really don't get. I don't know, Nicolas Cage, for instance. Yes, and you make the exercise on Nicolas Cage. Yes.
Yes.
So you are going to make it. You will write one sheet and you will deliver it to me, and that is your ticket of exit. Before you begin, is there any question on the 10 categories of the being? Again, all of these are accidents. This is the substance. If you have questions, if you don't know where to put it exactly, you justify why you put it there. Yes? And in order to differentiate, if it is substance or if it is accident, you question, would it be it without that?
Teacher, we have to put one on each, one in quantity, one in quality.
Yes, yes, indeed. Go ahead. So you decide if you work individually, couples, trios, whichever you fancy.
Like Sammy the snake.
Just like Sammy the snake, but you choose your subject. Yes? Now, a ver chicos. No utilicen un ente imaginario, utilicen un ente real. Sí. Sammy es real porque lo que yo conocí a Sammy, ¿verdad? Utilicen, a ver, tomen a su mascota, tomen a una persona famosa, tomen a alguien con quien puedan analizarlo como equipo, porque si no están hablando de algo que no va a coincidir. Okay? Thank you. That is your ticket of leave. That is your ticket to exit the class. Now these guys are thinking of a place, of an actual place. Good. Here we go.
Tenemos que ir explicando cada uno de esos substances y por qué.
No, no por qué, sino les pones cada uno. Si hay una característica que no sabes dónde poner, si va aquí o aquí, la quieres poner en uno de sus lugares, me dices por qué la pusiste. En caso de que sea controversial, dices, es que esto es aquí o aquí. Ya, decidan, pónganlo en un lugar.
Solo te tengo que preguntar, ¿no?
Solo me traen.
A ver, ¿qué escogemos? A ver, ¿por qué? ¿A qué escogemos? A ver, ya sé. Bello es una princesa. Bello es mi perro.
Right there.